Hello, Mr. LaBeouf here. In this video, we're going to consider 6 divided by 2 1/4. And then we're going to reverse the order of the division and consider 2 1/4 divided by 6. First thing we want to say about 6 divided by 2 1/4 is we could estimate and predict that the answer has to be near 3. So what if we say squiggly equal sign, which means about equal to 3. But can we do better than that? Well, 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 1/4 would be greater than 6. It would actually be 6 3/4. So we can go even further and say that our quotient needs to be less than 3. Some number close to 3 but less than 3 will be our quotient. How are we going to come up with that exact quotient? Well, 6 over 1 divided by 9/4. This fraction division is equivalent to what's above. 6 is the same as 6 over 1. 2 1/4 is, of course, 9/4. Keep, change, flip. 6 divided by 9/4 would be 6 times 4/9. Notice that I kept the 6 over 1 the same. I changed the division to a multiplication, and I flipped the 9/4 to 4/9. I'm multiplying by the reciprocal of 9/4. And multiplying across the top and bottom, of course, we get 24/9. Now, before I finish the problem in a classic 5th grade way, I want to make this observation. The 24/9 is actually a better way to understand the answer than what you might think. You might think, well, at this point, we're going to convert to a mixed number, and we will. But it's really the 24/9 which is in some ways a better way to think of the quotient, because 24/9 times 9/4. Let's take a look at that for a moment. Whenever we're dividing the quotient, we have to be able to take the quotient and multiply it by this second number to get the first. What do you multiply 2 1/4 by to get 6? Well, 2 1/4 is 9/4. So if we take our quotient 24/9 and multiply it by 9/4, which is the 2 1/4, we should get 6 if this is in fact the quotient. And look what happens. If we multiply across the top and bottom here, we get 24 times 9 over 9 times 4. And in the video explaining the formula for dividing by a fraction, we talked about this idea of canceling top and bottom common factors when you're multiplying. This 9 and this 9 can be canceled, because if we were to multiply out here 24 times 9 and 9 times 4, we could then simplify that fraction by dividing the top and bottom by 9. So why not just cancel right now the 9s? This is one of the most important concepts of middle school math, this idea of canceling common factors top and bottom in a fraction. And now we're left with 24 over 4. 24 divided by 4 is, of course, 6, which is what we were hoping for. So this multiplication here proves that 24/9 is the answer. Well, now we'll give the answer in the final way that we normally do in middle school math, and that is to say that 24/9, and notice it's a little less than 3. 27/9 is 3. 24/9 is less than 3. It is 2 6/9. Well, 2 6/9 can simplify to 2 2/3. We could have actually simplified this 24/9, dividing the top and bottom by 3. We could have simplified it first to 8/3. And then the 8/3 is 2 2/3. So this will be our final answer. But the 24/9 is really a better way to understand why the 2 2/3 is the answer. So now we'll consider the other division. We just did 6 divided by 2 1/4, got 24/9, or 8/3, or 2 2/3. Now we will consider 2 and 1/4 divided by 6. And notice what I've done here is reversed the order of the division. Division is not commutative. If you change the order in a division, you're going to get a different answer. But there's a relationship between the two answers, which we will look at the very end. But in order to do 2 and 1/4 divided by 6, we will, of course, think of each of them as fractions, because they are. The 2 and 1/4, just like in the last video, is still 9/4. And we're dividing that 9/4 by 6, which is 6 over 1. So, keep, change, flip. We'll keep the 9/4. We'll change to a multiplication and flip the second fraction. So we will do 9/4 times 1/6. And if you think of the notion of reciprocals, to divide by 6, multiply by its reciprocal. The reciprocal of 6 is 1/6. So we're going to multiply by 1/6. And multiplying across the top and bottom here, we get 9 over 24, which 9 times 1 is 9, 4 times 6 is 24. Dividing the top and bottom by 3, we get 3/8. 9/24 or 3/8 is the number that we have to multiply 6 by to get 2 and 1/4. You might want to confirm that. Take 3/8 times 6 and you will get 2 and 1/4. But I want to close this video with an observation. Division is not commutative, but there is a relationship. Anytime you change the order of a division, your two quotients are reciprocals of each other. The quotient here was 8/3, or 2 2/3, and the quotient here is 3/8. The 8/3 and the 3/8 are reciprocals of each other. And to finish out that observation, let's do this. The first division that we did, 6 divided by 2 and 1/4, could have been written like that. A fraction is a division. Now this is actually a complex fraction, a fraction that contains another fraction, but it's still a fraction. Complex fractions are something that exist. And in fact, what we can do is say that when we're doing 6 divided by 2 and 1/4, we're simplifying this complex fraction. We're turning it into a normal fraction, such as 8/3 or 2 2/3. Well, the other division, 2 and 1/4 divided by 6, could be written like that. This says 2 and 1/4 divided by 6. It is a complex fraction. And if you look at these two complex fractions, they're reciprocals of each other. The 6 over 2 and 1/4 and the 2 and 1/4 over 6. The numerator and denominator have been reversed. If we were to put a time sign between them and multiply across the top and bottom, 6 times 2 and 1/4 is the same as 2 and 1/4 times 6. Numerator over denominator, numerator and denominator being the same number, so they'd be equal to 1. So this last point is that if you change the order of a division, you're actually taking the reciprocal of the original division. So long for now.